We're putting you on a nuclear sub.
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
Whatever.
Nuclear.
You learn something new every day. Well, Lieutenant, thank you so much for being on the program. There's so many questions that we have, and there's so much information that's coming in a quick clip, including the president, who just broke news by commenting on this. I want to start by just stepping back, setting the table, and saying, you are the subject matter expert here. Given the news environment, what you've seen, and maybe what you know, what's happening exactly?
Well, Benny, I want to bring some, some balance to this entire conversation and help you out with this.
Please.
To begin with, the United States military has the most sophisticated intelligence gathering equipment on the face of the earth, including outer space. So yes, I'm convinced that our government knows the who, what, when, where, and why of the drones. The question that needs to be answered is, why not are they sharing this with us? Now, there's a few things we have to keep in mind. Because of the government's lack of transparency, just about every theory, every politician, everyone I've heard speak about this, other than President Trump, and I'll talk about that in a minute, they have no idea what they're talking about. They're making outlandish statements. And you just mentioned one before, that a politician said there was an Iranian mothership off the coast of New Jersey. And I'm glad you addressed that the way you did. Impossible, absolutely impossible without the United States Navy going out there and sinking that ship. But so we have all of these people with all of these different conclusions, and look, they're frustrated. They're they don't understand what's going on, and that's the result of the government, of the White House, that's not being transparent with the people. So what do I believe is going on? Based on everything I've seen and the people I've talked with, and I'm far from an expert, believe me, but I know enough of military intelligence and how our intelligence community works to draw some logical conclusions. And so I believe that the United States government is involved in testing these aerial platforms, which are the drones. For what reason? I can't tell you why. But I don't believe for 1 minute that they're up there to harm us, they're up there to hurt us. I don't believe for 1 minute that they're going to be used as offensive weapons, involved in some false flags and all of this nonsense that people are spewing out. But I do believe they're up there for a national security purpose. And it may be a defensive purpose. Maybe they're trying to find out if enemy forces ever decided to bring drones in, a particular type of drone, are we capable of detecting it? But saying that, why doesn't the government tell us? We could take it. Don't you think we're intelligent enough that we could take it? And so all of the fear and all of the frustration goes away. What bothers me as a person in the military and has worked with military intelligence is all these people who are drawing theories and trying to make the American believe that what they're saying is factual. It is not factual. You have whistleblowers. You have people saying, well, and by the way, the politician that talked about the alleged Iranian ship that really doesn't exist, he actually said that he's talked to someone very high in the chain of command, a high-level intelligence operative that told him that. Absolutely nonsense. If somebody told him that, they're going to go to prison. So I hope to bring some balance here. Any questions you have, let's talk about it. Yeah. And boy, I was so glad when you said, well, how did you put it? Not suicidal. You're right. The Iranians are stupid, they're dumb, they're weak, but they are not suicidal.
Lieutenant, I'll announce it here that Jeff Van Drew, who is the congressman who made those claims, will be on the program tomorrow. You're welcome to join us and have this conversation. We look forward to asking the congressman these questions, because I just can't believe that a military that swears an oath to defend America would allow hundreds, if not thousands, of foreign fixed-wing aircraft to freely fly over our most densely populated states, including the beautiful state that you're from, New Jersey.
An absolute very good point. And I'm glad you said it, because if I said it, people would say, well, what do you expect the guy to say? You know, he's been in the military. But you said it. What the American people need to know is that we have young men and women all over this country, from your community, from mine, all over America, rural America, the larger cities, who take an oath of office. And believe me, I've been in there long enough to realize that if our military saw anything going awry that would hurt the American people, they would immediately get involved. We have generals, we have admirals, the greatest in the world are right here in the United States of America. And I could tell you, some of them have literally stopped. They have stopped certain actions being taken, at least the years I was in, that could end up being in a war. So the first group of people on earth who don't want a war are, guess who? Our military, because they're the ones who will die.
Yes.
They're the ones who will shed blood.
Yes. It's part of the reason, obviously part of the reason why we want peace. We want peace in all of these theaters. We don't want things to spiral out of control. We don't want to be dragged into more wars. Some are speculating that these drones are sniffer drones. They're subject matter experts, not just crackpots or anons, but like legitimate subject matter experts that have gone viral and have said, listen, these drones have the capacities to look for radioactive material, gas leaks, threats that may be materializing for the holidays or for President Trump's inauguration. Does that stand to reason, given the fact that you were a naval intelligence officer in the military?
Well, I think some of that stands to reason, because keep in mind, we have to be vigilant. We have to have the technology to, for example, detect any potential threat, whether it be in the land, the sea, or the air. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking, well, just maybe, not that I'm going to defend the government on this, they should be transparent, just maybe they don't want our enemies to know what they're doing up there. Because look, you know, Benny, not only are we looking at it, the American people, but our enemies are. They probably want to know what's going on there. What's scratching your head saying, what's going on in America? Who's responsible for the drones? Now, they may know because they have technology like we do. But the fact of the matter is, when I talked earlier about they might be testing these drones as a defensive measure against any potential threat, that sounds logical. But it's not the offensive end that I'm thinking about.
I'm sure you've been to MacDill Military Base. It's right down the street from where we're broadcasting right now. And it's where CENTCOM is located. And there's no shortage of very sophisticated weapon systems that are launched from there day and night. We often, if they're going to go supersonic or if there's going to be any major tests, we get notified, actually, because we live very close to the base. Sometimes there's a boom. Sometimes there's a crack. Sometimes you can see them flying overhead. It's pretty cool. I think it's freaking awesome. Yeah. But they notify us. And there's also an information line that residents can call and get, like, hey, this aircraft was flying at this time. It's great, right? In case your kids get scared or whatever. Why the hell are they doing that to the residents of your state? I mean, that seems like incredible on its face. It seems incredibly rude. It seems like you're creating panic.
They are. There's no other way to put it. But if you notice, there haven't been any sightings over the White House, over the Capitol. There are no fly zones. Think about that. There are no fly zones. The military installations, probably, again, as you just articulated, our government may want to detect certain threats or the capability of us detecting certain threats. But all this panic is a result of the government not being transparent. What do they expect the people to do? What do they, and the media is just adding fuel to the fire. I mean, they're really adding fuel to the fire.
Sure, but tell us, right? It's like you're lying to us. So what do you expect us to do? We have to ask the question,
Yeah. So what we need to do is, like we're doing right now in our conversation, bring in some balance, letting the American people understand that there are experts in the field, and I'm not one of them, but I know enough to say this. We need to just calm down. I'm not saying trust the government. I'm saying trust our instincts, always get facts, look at the facts. And if the facts say, well, there is a possibility of A, B, and C, then there's your fact. But the facts do not conclude much of what we have heard. So I'm so grateful to be here and to share this with you.
Sure. Okay, so radiation hunting. You said that could be a possibility.
Anything could be a possibility. Absolutely. I wouldn't know if down the street there was a radiation problem or chemical problem in certain areas. Look at these drones are big enough to carry bombs and chemical weapons, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean they're up there for that purpose. But I think it's good. I think it's good on the part of our government if they're doing such a thing to protect us. What's bad? They're not telling us. Well, yes. My goodness sakes, just tell us. We're intelligent human beings.
Yes.
And we understand. I understand what has to be kept secret. But if this was such a big secret deal, you're not going to have navigation lights on these drones. You're not going to allow anybody to see them. So maybe why they're up there secret, but you know what? They could tell us simply they're there for a legitimate reason. They're there to detect A, B, and C. They're there for our benefit, for our national security. And of course, you'll have people even question that, but at least we got something. Right now, we have nothing.
I have absolutely no instinct that these things are there, that these are being flown in order to harm the populations. I do believe, however, that harm has been done to our population by having an open border, and we have at least 1,000 people who are on the terrorist watch list who came into our country. Now, that's what our government tells us. Who knows what else was allowed into our nation? We know that fentanyl that kills 100,000 Americans, of course, pours across our southern border, and that having an open border is just the single most egregious national security violation in American history. And so who knows what was smuggled across that border and who was allowed to come into this nation. And when somebody says it's a dirty bomb and maybe they're trying to, F with the American people and do some type of horrible action, that does stand to reason, Lieutenant. And that maybe this administration is trying to cover their ass and find something before it starts. That seems to me to be the most logical explanation for what's going on.
It could be. Benny, I worked at the National FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, and we did a lot of intelligence gathering regarding the border. And our fear was that someone would walk in with a dirty bomb, or someone would walk in with a powerful weapon.
Wow.
And at least when I was there was no evidence that was happening, but it doesn't mean it didn't happen, okay?
Wow.
That all these years, maybe, you have cells being created all over the place. Now, only the FBI and the CIA, et cetera, know that right now. But saying that, we need to be vigilant. You see something, say something. Very important at this time in our history. And secondly, our government needed to take action a long time ago to shut that border down. We see it's going to happen soon. But believe me when I tell you that when it comes to the national security of the United States, we're going to see some very significant changes for the good down the road. Unfortunately, it got to this point, but you know who rose to the occasion? The American people. The American people rose to the occasion and said, enough's enough. America has to defend itself against all threats, foreign and domestic, and that's coming real soon. So there's our hope.
Just very quickly to pivot off of what you just said, how would that work? How would you smuggle, let's say, the theory out there is Soviet-era uranium, and they had a lot of bombs, and a lot of this stuff goes missing after the collapse of the Soviet Union. How would that work? How would you assemble a dirty bomb? Like, you've gone through the task force. You must have had maybe a schematic or a plan for like what happened.
I didn't, but I could tell you, speaking to experts in the field, they all talk about, well, they're not going to walk in carrying a bomb, right? They're going to piecemeal it. It's going to come in, maybe not the southern border, maybe the northern border. Look, we've got an unprotected border with Canada, and now our government's beginning to understand that. And it won't be one person involved, Benny. It'll be a dozen people maybe involved. There'll be a lot of communication, a lot of discussion. And by the way, a lot could be learned on the internet today, which is a problem. The ghost guns, bomb making material. I mean, things could be done domestically. Just get the right ingredients and you got yourself a powerful weapon. So there's so much involved here that has to be taken care of and addressed as we move forward. But we're going to do the best we could moving forward. I believe we're going to be fine down the road. And it's as a result of the American people rising up. And you said something before. You mentioned God a few times. I'm going to tell you something. I've read the Bible from cover to cover. I believe there's a lot of things going on that were prophesied by the prophets. And I believe this is a time, as Ronald Reagan said, this is a time for America to pray for wisdom, for guidance, for understanding, especially for our leaders. And our prayers have been answered by the election of Donald Trump. I believe that. If he was Reagan, I'd say the same thing. So I believe that, at least from a spiritual point of view, things are under control. But we have to keep our eyes open, and we have to make sure that our best interests of America are going to be met by doing what we're doing right now. And talk about the American people.
Yeah. So you're saying that, given the fact that you've worked on these task force, and I agree entirely. We're only in this position. I only have like a little bit of confidence and a little bit of a stiff upper lip here because of a true confluence of miracles that kept President Trump alive and that brought us to this moment. So it's truly important and a very important state, and state with regularity. So God does have his hand on this nation. He does protect this nation. But there are dark forces at play and dark forces that wish and intend this country harm. For what end? For what end? I'm not sure. I don't have the heart to explain mass murder. But there are lots of dark forces that are within our borders that if they had a nuclear weapon, they would frickin' detonate it during the Macy's Day Parade. I mean, they would do it, right? And so the prevention of having those materials coming into the country, it does seem to be a massive priority, and it just wasn't prioritized.
But I could tell you this: what the American people don't know, and I know some of this to a degree, and I could share with you because it's no secret, is how many attempts were made, and the FBI, our CIA, our military stopped it. And all credit to them. We've heard a lot of the negative stuff about the Bureau, the FBI, and our agencies, the military, but those young men and women are working 24/7, and I can attest to the fact that they have prevented big disasters in this country. So they're working hard and they're succeeding, but the American people will never know the who, what, when, where, and why of that.
Well, I think that's a shame, frankly. I mean, I think that a government that keeps secrets
Yes.
from its people is operating outside of the constitutional bounds and limitations of the government. And also, it's like we're shareholders in this country, and we have a right to know if you keep this information from your shareholders and the people that are paying the bills in the country, you're defrauding them. And I'm a big proponent, obviously, of declassification of everything from the Epstein list to the JFK files. I think that secrets, by its very definition, the government keeping secrets from us by definitionally means that it's not a democracy, right? And so, this is a perfect example of that. I think they're creating mass hysteria for maybe it is just a training exercise. Look, freaking tell us. It's like
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think it's how you create distrust. All right. So if you were to like last question here, Lieutenant, if you were to put your reputation on what is exactly going on, given your incredible pedigree in law enforcement and in keeping this nation safe and your sacrifice for this nation, what would you say is actually happening to your home
U.S.
state?
the U.S. government testing aerial platforms, which are your drones, for defensive reasons. What defensive reasons, I don't know, but to sum it up the way you would like it summed up, and simply say, these drones are not there to hurt us, they're there to protect us. But the government needs to come out and just level with us, let us know what's going on.
All right. Well, please run for governor of New Jersey, because that guy's a real goofball.
I did in 2017 Republican primary. Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. Okay, all right. Well, that's what every New Jersey elected official that comes on, I say, please, Phil Murphy is a real ass clown. That guy. Follow the great Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, who also shares, of course, the same name as Captain America.
Yes.
That's right, and who has a very Captain America background there and a very Captain America profile. Here, and you have great takes. I don't want things to go off the rails here. I don't want to cause extreme or mass panic. Flying a bunch of creepy aircraft over everyone's home is how you cause mass panic, and then lying to them. That's how you do it. So it's So hopefully they put you in charge of something, because you'd be better than what we got.
Well, hey, it was a pleasure, real pleasure being on.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Godspeed, and please follow.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
There you
That's
go.
right.
Thank you.
That's right.
Bye-bye now.